The Galactic Council was abuzz with debate, the chamber filled with a cacophony of alien voices. Dozens of species, each more advanced and diverse than the last, argued over the fate of a primitive species called humanity. To most of them, humans were a minor nuisance, a young, brash civilization barely crawling into interstellar space. Yet their rapid technological advancement had drawn the attention of the Empire. Some called for swift eradication, others for enslavement, but all dismissed humanity as inconsequential. Amid the debate, a figure stepped forward, an alien whose very presence commanded silence. He was ancient by the standards of his species, his body covered in the scars of countless battles. His eyes glinted with the weariness of someone who had seen too much, and when he spoke, his voice cut through the noise like a blade. "You are all fools," the veteran began, his tone carrying a weight that silenced the room. "You think humanity is weak because their weapons are crude and their ships unsophisticated. But I have fought them. I have seen what they are capable of. And I am here to warn you. You underestimate them at your peril." The room erupted into murmurs, many dismissing the veteran's words as the ramblings of an old soldier. But he continued, his voice unwavering. "You think war is a contest of firepower, of strategy. For humans, war is a crucible. It shapes them, hardens them, and makes them stronger. They don't fear war. They mock it." The veteran's words carried the weight of personal experience, and he began to recount his story. Decades ago, his fleet had been dispatched to a remote human colony. It was a routine operation: subjugate the locals, extract resources, and move on. But the humans didn't react as expected. They didn't cower or beg for mercy. Instead, they fought back with a ferocity that defied logic. He described how they used every advantage they could muster. They weaponized their environment, laying traps and turning the terrain into a death trap for the invaders. They repurposed mining equipment into makeshift weapons, their ingenuity turning the tide of battle in ways no one could predict. And when the aliens thought they had them cornered, the humans resorted to tactics that were both terrifying and brilliant. "I saw them laugh as they charged into hopeless battles," the veteran said, his voice tinged with awe. "Not out of madness, but because they had already accepted death. They used themselves as bait, drawing our forces into ambushes. They destroyed their own infrastructure to deny us resources. They sabotaged our ships, hacking into systems they had never encountered before and turning them against us. It wasn't strategy, it was survival, and they excelled at it." The veteran paused, his gaze sweeping across the room. "They are not like us. For most of you, war is a necessity, something to be avoided if possible. But for humans, war is woven into their history. They've been fighting each other since the dawn of their existence. They have mastered the art of conflict because it's part of who they are." The council was uneasy now, the murmurs turning into anxious whispers. Some dismissed the veteran as paranoid, but others couldn't ignore the conviction in his voice. The old soldier pressed on. "You think their history of infighting makes them weak? You couldn't be more wrong. Their wars have made them adaptable, resilient, and unpredictable. They turn every loss into a lesson, every defeat into a stepping stone for their next victory. They don't just fight wars, they evolve through them." He recounted one final moment from his campaign against humanity. His fleet had cornered the last human stronghold on the colony. Victories seemed inevitable, but in their desperation, the humans had unleashed a weapon of their own making, a crude but devastating bomb that obliterated both their own city and the invading forces. The humans had sacrificed everything to deny their enemy even the smallest victory. "I barely survived," the veteran said, his voice now a low growl. "And I've spent the years since then wondering how a species could be so ruthless, so willing to destroy themselves to win. That's when I realized they don't see war the way we do. For them, it's not about pride or power. It's about survival, no matter the cost." The chamber fell into silence. Even the most arrogant members of the council couldn't ignore the gravity of the veteran's words. But as the moments passed, the silence was broken by laughter. A young council member, his voice dripping with contempt, sneered at the veteran. "So, what if they're resilient? They're still primitives. They're nothing compared to the might of the Empire. The veteran's eyes narrowed. That's what I thought too. Until I saw them in action. Underestimate them, and you'll regret it. Despite his warning, the council voted to escalate their campaign against humanity. The decision was met with cheers from those eager to demonstrate the Empire's superiority. The veteran, now weary, turned and left the chamber. As he walked away, he muttered to himself, "They'll learn soon enough." Deep down, he knew the Empire's arrogance would be its downfall. Humans didn't just survive war, they thrived on it. And if the Empire wasn't careful, they would awaken a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Empire's fleet loomed over the red sands of Mars, their ships casting long shadows over the human colony below. It was a display of overwhelming force, designed to crush resistance through fear alone. Yet, the response they received was silence. The humans didn't send pleas for mercy or frantic messages of surrender. Instead, they activated their defenses, a network of improvised weapons built from mining lasers, satellite systems, and outdated military hardware. The first wave of the Empire's assault was met with unexpected resistance. Laser bursts from the colony's surface struck precision blows, disabling key systems on several alien ships. EMP devices, rigged together from salvaged components, disrupted their communications. The humans had taken whatever tools they had and turned them into weapons capable of holding back an interstellar fleet. It wasn't elegance or sophistication, it was pure ingenuity born of necessity. The Empire underestimated the humans. They assumed this was desperation, the last stand of a doomed species. But to the humans, it was strategy. They knew they couldn't face the Empire in open combat. Instead, they fought like a species used to punching above its weight. Every shot they fired was calculated, every move designed to exploit the Empire's complacency. Behind the scenes, human scientists worked tirelessly, reverse engineering captured alien technology. What the Empire considered advanced, humans saw as a puzzle to solve. Engineers stripped down alien weaponry, understanding its mechanisms, and adapting it to their needs. Alien drones were hacked and repurposed, turning the invaders' own machines against them. Even captured fragments of alien ships became vital resources in humanity's growing arsenal. As the Empire regrouped, human leaders convened in underground bunkers. They understood that this war wouldn't be won through brute force, but through strategy and creativity. Plans were drawn up for an asymmetric war. Supply lines would be targeted, communication networks disrupted, and psychological warfare unleashed. It wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight to outthink and outlast a superior foe. In the days that followed, the Empire began to feel the weight of humanity's resistance. Their fleets encountered sabotage at every turn. Cargo ships disappeared, supply routes were raided, and outposts were destroyed by small, mobile human forces that seemed to vanish into the void. The humans didn't engage in prolonged battles. They struck quickly and disappeared before the Empire could retaliate. A small group of human saboteurs infiltrated an Empire cruiser, their infiltration methods unorthodox but devastatingly effective. They used stolen uniforms and improvised cloaking devices to evade detection, planting viruses in the ship's AI systems. When the cruiser returned to its fleet, the AI turned against its own, firing on allied ships before self-destructing. The psychological impact of this betrayal rippled through the Empire's ranks. Human propaganda began to spread, further destabilizing the Empire's confidence. Messages were intercepted and altered, broadcasting images of human defiance. Soldiers were shown cheering after victories, civilians refusing to flee even in the face of destruction. The Empire's troops, conditioned to view humans as weak, began to question everything they had been told. Within the Galactic Council, cracks began to form. Some species, watching the unfolding chaos, started to doubt the wisdom of provoking humanity. The veterans' warning echoed in their minds, and a growing minority began advocating for peace. But the dominant voices in the council dismissed these concerns, confident that the Empire's might would eventually prevail. For the humans, every victory, no matter how small, was a step forward. Each defeat the Empire suffered was a lesson, a data point to be analyzed and adapted to. What the Empire failed to understand was that humanity wasn't just resisting, they were learning. Every skirmish, every captured ship, every piece of alien technology brought them closer to evening the playing field. The Empire's arrogance had blinded them to the reality of their situation. They had expected a quick, decisive victory. Instead, they found themselves locked in a protracted conflict with an enemy that refused to fight on their terms. Humanity wasn't just surviving, they were turning the war into a game they could win. And the Empire, for all its power, was starting to feel the strain. By the time the Empire realized the true extent of humanity's resilience, it was too late. The humans had turned the tide of the war, not with superior firepower, but with ingenuity, adaptability, and an unyielding refusal to submit. What had begun as a campaign of conquest had become a desperate struggle to contain a force that was quickly becoming unstoppable. The Empire returned with everything they could muster, their fleets casting an ominous shadow over Earth. Their arrogance was replaced by frustration, their strategies now fueled by desperation. This was meant to be their decisive strike, a show of dominance to crush humanity once and for all. But humanity had prepared for this moment. In orbit, a network of defensive platforms powered up. These were not elegant constructs of advanced engineering but salvaged alien tech fused with human innovation. Massive railguns fired slugs at unimaginable speeds, tearing through the shields of Empire ships. Drones, hacked and reprogrammed, swarmed the enemy fleet, overwhelming their point defenses. Humans had taken the best of what they had learned from their enemies and turned it into a weaponized masterpiece. The Empire's fleet was caught off guard by the intensity of the resistance. Their formations, designed for traditional engagements, struggled against the chaotic and unpredictable human tactics. They expected a defensive stand but were met with coordinated offensives that exploited every weakness. Human engineers worked tirelessly to maintain the orbital stations mid-battle, patching systems in real time to keep their weapons operational. Civilians on the surface relayed critical intelligence, using every available resource to track the Empire's movements. The battle raged for hours, each side taking heavy losses. But while the Empire's forces grew demoralized, humanity's resolve only strengthened. Aboard the defensive platforms, soldiers and technicians fought with a fierce determination, knowing they were not just defending a planet, but proving that humanity could stand against the galaxy's greatest power. They didn't need speeches or orders to rally them. Their actions spoke louder than any words could. Meanwhile, Earth itself became a fortress. Cities blacked out to confuse enemy sensors, while decoy installations drew fire away from critical infrastructure. Underground factories churned out ammunition and drones, while engineers monitored the battle above, sending strategic advice and countermeasures to their forces. Humanity fought as one cohesive unit, their collective ingenuity and determination pushing the Empire's forces to their limits. The Empire's frustration began to show. Fleet commanders, unaccustomed to such fierce resistance, started making mistakes. They underestimated the speed with which humans could adapt. A single ship-breaking formation became an opportunity for humans to strike, isolating and destroying it with precision. Their overconfidence turned into doubt, and doubt turned into fear. Psychological warfare intensified. Human propaganda broadcasts, intercepted and spread through alien channels, began to sow chaos among the enemy ranks. Footage of human soldiers celebrating victories or standing defiantly in the face of destruction reached Empire troops, shaking their morale. Even the most disciplined alien soldiers began to question the wisdom of this war. The words of the veteran who had warned the Council now felt prophetic. As the battle reached its peak, a single event shifted the tide. A massive Empire dreadnought, the flagship of the fleet, suffered a catastrophic failure after its systems were hacked by a team of human specialists. The ship's shields collapsed, leaving it vulnerable to a concentrated barrage from human defenses. When the flagship erupted in a fiery explosion, the remaining Empire forces faltered. The humans didn't let up. They pressed their advantage, coordinating a final push that forced the Empire's fleet to retreat. What was supposed to be the Empire's triumph had turned into their most humiliating defeat. The survivors of the battle limped back to their territories, their pride shattered. The Galactic Council, watching from afar, was thrown into turmoil. Some members saw the defeat as a sign that humanity was more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Others, however, began to see humanity in a new light, not as a threat, but as a force to be reckoned with, a species that had earned its place among the stars. For humanity, the battle was more than a victory. It was a message to the galaxy. They would not bow, they would not break, and they would not be conquered. They had faced the Empire at its strongest and had endured. And as the last of the Empire's ships disappeared into the void, humanity turned its eyes to the stars, ready for whatever came next. The aftermath of the war left the galaxy in a state of stunned silence. The Empire's defeat at the hands of humanity reverberated across countless worlds. For centuries, the Empire had been the unchallenged power in the galaxy, their dominance never questioned. Now that image of invincibility had been shattered. The scars left by the conflict ran deep, both on the battlefield and within the halls of the Galactic Council. Humanity, against all odds, had emerged as a force to be reckoned with. But the victory came at a price. Earth's surface bore the marks of battle, with cities reduced to rubble and entire regions left uninhabitable. Families mourned their losses, and the survivors carried the weight of what they had endured. Yet, through the destruction, humanity found unity like never before. The war had galvanized them, forging a collective identity that transcended borders and cultures. They were no longer fragmented nations but a single, united species. Efforts to rebuild began almost immediately. The same ingenuity that had allowed humanity to survive the war was now directed toward recovery. Engineers worked to repair infrastructure, scientists focused on reversing environmental damage, and leaders turned their attention to strengthening the alliances forged during the war. But there was another task at hand, deciding humanity's place in the galaxy moving forward. The Galactic Council, still reeling from the Empire's failure, faced an unprecedented crisis. Some factions pushed for renewed hostilities, desperate to restore the Empire's dominance and crush humanity before they could grow any stronger. Others argued for caution, recognizing that further conflict could destabilize the entire region. And then there were those who saw humanity as a potential ally, a species whose resilience and creativity could bring much-needed innovation to the stagnant galactic order. Amid the debates, humanity made its voice heard. Their representatives, once ignored and dismissed, now commanded respect. They didn't come seeking revenge or conquest, but instead offered cooperation. They proposed trade agreements, technological exchanges, and cultural partnerships, emphasizing that their victory wasn't about domination but survival. Their message was clear. They weren't interested in repeating the mistakes of the Empire. Yet, humanity remained wary. They knew the galaxy wasn't ready to fully embrace them. Even as new alliances formed, there were those who viewed humanity's rise as a threat. Secretive plots began to emerge, with factions seeking to undermine humanity's progress. Espionage and sabotage became new fronts in the conflict, forcing humanity to remain vigilant even in peacetime. But humanity had learned from the war. They had studied the tactics of their enemies, mastered new technologies, and honed their strategies. Every setback became an opportunity to adapt, every challenge a chance to grow stronger. Their intelligence networks expanded, uncovering plots before they could unfold. Their diplomats outmaneuvered opponents, turning potential adversaries into reluctant allies. And their scientists pushed the boundaries of innovation, ensuring that humanity stayed one step ahead. In the years that followed, humanity began to leave its mark on the galaxy in ways no one could have anticipated. Their ability to thrive under pressure became a source of fascination and inspiration for other species. Alien leaders sought to understand the mindset that had allowed humans to endure. What they discovered was a culture that embraced diversity, that saw challenges as opportunities to prove their worth. Humanity's influence began to grow, not through conquest, but through collaboration. Their willingness to share their hard-earned knowledge earned them allies among previously neutral factions. Their advancements in technology and medicine benefited countless worlds, winning the gratitude of species that had once viewed them with suspicion. And their stories of resilience and survival inspired others to stand up against oppression, planting the seeds of rebellion within the Empire's remaining territories. The Empire, now fractured and weakened, struggled to maintain control. Uprisings broke out across their domains, fueled by the knowledge that even the most powerful force in the galaxy could be defeated. Former allies of the Empire began to distance themselves, seeking new partnerships with humanity and other emerging powers. The once mighty Empire, once feared and revered, was now a shadow of its former self. For humanity, the future was uncertain, but filled with possibility. They had proven that they could not only survive but thrive in a galaxy that had sought to destroy them. They had turned their greatest weakness, their perceived primitiveness, into their greatest strength. And as they looked to the stars, they knew that their story was just beginning. The Galactic Council, now reshaped by humanity's influence, faced a choice. They could cling to the old ways, driven by fear and control, or they could embrace the change that humanity represented. The veteran who had once warned of humanity's potential watched from the shadows, his warnings vindicated. He saw in humanity a force that could reshape the galaxy, for better or worse. And humanity, as always, remained prepared for whatever lay ahead. They had faced the Empire and emerged stronger. Now, they stood ready to face the challenges of a galaxy that had underestimated them for far too long. For the first time in its history, the galaxy began to see humanity not as a species to be conquered, but as a force that could not be ignored.